Welcome back to For the Home Cook. Of course, this show we are trying to save money on our grocery bill as those budgets get tighter and things get more expensive. Hopefully you can take some advice from this and save a little bit of money. So today we are going to focus on breakfast. And for some, skipping breakfast is a no-brainer. Maybe you don't get hungry till 11 or noon or 1 or whatever time of day that you start to get hungry. For others, skipping breakfast is just not an option. And if you talk to experts, they're going to say breakfast, of course, saying it's the most important meal of the day. It's the first thing that, get your body awake and moving. So if you are like me and maybe you need a little bit of breakfast, a few inspiring ideas, these are things that are going to be really affordable and you can stretch them into a meal. Now, this doesn't mean you can only eat it for breakfast. Have breakfast for lunch, have breakfast for dinner. I've got some stuff that we're going to mix the two, a breakfast and a lunch together. So first, let's start with some of our bases. So these are going to be items that are going to be very cost effective and they are going to be able to be the base or the most of your meal. And then you can supplement with other things that are going to cost a little bit more, but these are going to be your bases. This is what's going to be most of that meal. So first of all, potatoes. Potatoes, especially if you get russet potatoes, those are going to be very, very cost effective. If you get the smaller potatoes, maybe not. You can also do sweet potatoes. Those are still very cost effective at this time, but potatoes are going to be very, very cost effective and you can stretch those on a bunch of different dishes. We also have eggs. Eggs are finally pretty affordable. It's like $1.97 for a 12 pack, which is not too bad. And so when we talk about eggs, there's a good and a bad. Eggs are affordable, but also they can contribute to things like high cholesterol and stuff like that. So if you have eggs and maybe you don't want to eat a bunch of eggs, also think about egg whites. So you can have like one egg and some egg whites, and then that's going to be a little bit healthier. But potatoes, they are actually very, very nutrient dense, and so are eggs. So there are some health benefits to it. You will have to kind of watch if maybe you're prone to high cholesterol and things like that. But eggs are finally affordable, and you can stretch those in a lot of different meals. So let's go into some bread items. So pancakes and waffles. I love these so much because I think that they're very customizable. You can make a bunch of different versions of them, big, small, with, toppings and not toppings, and then you can freeze them. What I love about this is that you can make a lot of pancakes or waffles at one time. You can put them in the freezer, then you can use them for a lot of different things. I did see a list of things that you can use with pancakes. And when I say that, somebody made like a grilled cheese. I would not do that, but do you, boo-boo? I've also seen them make like ice cream sandwiches, which sounds kind of good. They've also, Andy Justice, he says he uses them as like basically a taco shell. So he'll do breakfast and put like some scrambled eggs and a piece of bacon and then, some maple syrup on top. And then now you have like a breakfast taco. So I like that those can be used in so many different ways with pancakes and waffles, that you can make a lot of them and that you can freeze them for a few months. Another bread type item is tortillas. Now these are very, very cost effective, especially if you make them at home and you have the stuff to make them at home. But you can use those in a lot of different ways to really stretch a meal. Another one, and this one is going to be, some people like it and some people don't, oatmeal. So especially when you make it at home. Now, if you get a box of it, then you're going to get into some calories and macros and things of that nature. But oats themselves are very nutrient dense. They are very good for digestion. They're very good for weight loss because they're going to make you feel full. And then you can add a bunch of different stuff to them. You can also make them hot or cold. There are so many variations that you can do. If you don't like them cold, you can do them hot. If you don't like hot, maybe you try some overnight oats, which we're going to make here in a little bit. And you can customize those, and it's cost effective if done in the right way. The last one is yogurt. Now this one is also, some people like yogurt and some people do not. I don't necessarily love Greek yogurt taste all the time, but especially Greek yogurt, it's going to be it's going to be cost effective for the most part. And then you can really add stuff to it to make it taste just a little bit better. It's great to add into things. So we're going to put some into our overnight oats, and it's going to help with that protein. And it also, most yogurts have probiotics, so it's great for digestion. And then you can add some toppings to it to make it kind of better than it tastes. So we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to start making some recipes using some of these bases that we have told you about. Welcome back. Of course, we are talking about breakfast, and we've gone over some of the bases, some of the things that are really going to be cost effective and kind of be the base of your breakfast items. And now I want to get to some recipes. So we're going to start here in the middle. So this one is going to use a few of our base items. So potatoes, like I said, potatoes are very, very cost effective, especially if you get russet potatoes. Those are going to be the cheapest. You can get the smaller potatoes, but it's going to add up. And so what I have here is a breakfast hash. Now, this I love because you can make it with so many different things, stuff that is left in your fridge that you didn't eat, some leftovers, or maybe some things that you put in the freezer after Thanksgiving, not Halloween. If it's still there from Halloween, maybe use it. So when we talk about potatoes, this right here, it's got some diced potatoes. It's also got some peppers and onions. Now, if you want to be lazy and you don't want to get peppers, onions, and potatoes, go to the freezer section and you're going to find these right here. They're called, they look different in stores, but they're called O'Brien potatoes, or Southern style O'Brien or whatever. But it's literally diced potatoes, peppers, and onions. And so you're not going to spend a lot more compared to buying potatoes, peppers, and onions and then chopping those up and putting them into a pan. So if you can find these, as long as you're not making like tons and tons of potatoes, if you find these are going to be a great alternative. You're not going to spend much more compared to what you're going to do here. But what I did is I put a little bit of oil in there. I threw these in there. If you have, just regular potatoes, you want to put your onions and your peppers in first and let those cook for a little bit, and then put your potatoes in there. Now from there, let's talk about the protein. So we have our base, which is going to be our potatoes, our peppers, and our onions. And when we talk about a protein, this is where we can get fun with it. So what I did is I just took already cooked bacon. So it comes, I think it's got like 10 strips of bacon for like $3. Cut those up and then put them in here just to heat them through and get them seasoned with everything in here. Obviously season your potatoes with this as well. But here's the cool part. So if you have any leftover protein, so you maybe have some pulled pork or some shredded beef, if you have leftover ham, like if you did a ham for Thanksgiving and you put it in the freezer and you're wondering, what do I do with this leftover ham? 1, make a pot of beans. 2, cut it up and put it into your hash. You can also use sausage, you can use bacon, you can use Canadian bacon, you can use ground beef. Anything that you want to use that is affordable or that you have on hand is great for a hash because everything just kind of mixes together and then you're good to go. So I put the bacon in there. Now from here, this is where we're going to want to add our eggs. So you can do one of 2 ways. You can either scramble your eggs into a bowl and then pour them in here and cook them. I've also seen people just crack them on top and then kind of let them cook to like an over easy style. And that's fine. If that's how you want to eat your eggs, that would be fine too. Depending on who's in your household may also indicate on how the eggs are going to be cooked. But what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to crack a few on top and then just let them kind of cook as they may. So once again, eggs are a good base because they are affordable right now. You can get a dozen for about $1.97. So that's way down from the $3 and $4 that we were seeing just a few months ago. So eggs are still affordable. It may not be something that you want to use a bunch of eggs in all of your recipes, but still affordable, still something that we can really put into dishes and extend the amounts. What I also love about this recipe is that this is the same thing that we would be using for the most part for breakfast burritos. And I love breakfast burritos. I love cooking them ahead of time, and you can put those in the freezer as well. So maybe you make a bunch of breakfast hash, and then you take the leftovers, put them in some tortillas, and then I would put them in parchment paper and then foil, put them in the freezer. When you take them out, you want one, take the foil off, leave the parchment paper, put it in the microwave. The parchment paper is going to allow all of the frozen ice in the temperature make steam, and then it's going to re-steam that tortilla so you're not doing like crispy tortillas that are not very good. All right, so we're going to mix this up. The only other things that I would add in here are going to be like some cheese on top. That's optional. Cheese is one of those. You probably have some left from a bag sitting in the bottom of your fridge because you needed it for that one recipe. So this is a great time to kind of use that left over for this right here. So once again, when we talk about our bases, that's what we're gonna want most of our recipe to be. So most of this recipe is that potato, onions, and peppers. The bacon is additional, your protein is additional, but it's not the majority of this dish. And that's what we want to focus on with breakfast, is having those things that are affordable, cost-effective, be the majority of our dish. All right, so that's done. If you don't like your potatoes as crispy, like some people might say that those are burnt, do you, boo? Whatever consistency that you want this to be at, that works for me. All right, so we're gonna turn this off. That'll continue cooking, and then of course we will put that in some tortillas. We'll make some burritos, or you can just eat it as is. All right, so that's dish number one. So the second one that we are gonna do is going to be pancakes and waffles. So we're into our breads. Like I said, I love pancakes and waffles because you can make a lot of them, you can freeze them, and then you can eat them in a lot of different ways. So I have a few options. One, your most cost effective when it comes to waffles and pancakes is going to be to make the batter at home. Most of us have those ingredients. It's flour, it's sugar, it's baking powder, you know, it's probably got milk and then oil, eggs, those sorts of things. Most of us have those ingredients at home. So making it from scratch is going to be the most cost-effective option. But depending on what kind of pancake mix that you get, they have some that are still very, very cost-effective, and you're gonna make a lot. What I like is what I have over here. So these are, it's a whole grain, and it's also a protein based waffle and pancake mix. Now, this one is, once you get into this style of them with protein, they're gonna be about $5 for the box. But when you make these, it's about 15 grams of protein per serving. And then the way that we make them, we're gonna add that. Obviously, protein is gonna keep you full. And so that's gonna be kind of the great thing about this, is that depending on how many that you eat, you're gonna get full. You have a good amount of protein. So what I do with these is I will add about 2 cups of this to a bowl. And then if you have any leftover protein shakes, maybe you got some at the store, you never drank them, you don't like the taste of them, the kids didn't drink them, whatever, you can add those into this mix and up your protein count for these pancakes and these waffles. So I added a full 11 ounces here and then a little bit of water and just mix that up. And then now you can make a bunch of pancakes, a bunch of waffles. I also have these up here at the front. Now what I love about pancakes and waffles is that you customize them to be whatever flavor that you want. You can add whatever you want. If it's fruit, if it's chocolate chips, if it's, you know, pecans or whatever, you can add that to the batter and you can make some really, really great options. These at the front, these, I'd use the same batter. I put it in a mini cupcake tin, cooked it at about 350 for about 15 minutes, and I added some chocolate chips before I baked them. Same thing here. You can make these little mini ones. You can freeze these. These can be on the go, and then you can add all sorts of stuff. If you want to add cinnamon or chocolate chips or fruit or whatever to them, that is an option, and they're kind of in that mini form. Now, pancakes and waffles, I love them. You can freeze them. What I like to do with them is, and I've meal prepped this plenty of times, get some, I do fully cooked, but get some breaded chicken, put that into the air fryer or into your oven, and then cut it up what I have here. So this is like chicken tenders, or they have a brand called Just Bare. They have a brand called Real Good that are kind of lightly breaded. So you're gonna save some on calories, but cut them up into little pieces like this. And then at the end of your cooking, take about 2 waffles, put them in the air fryer for a few minutes or into a toaster, and then make chicken and waffles. So what I have here, usually I'll do 2 waffles and I'll do about 86 grams of chicken, which is a serving. And if you cut it up small like this, it's gonna look like more. It's gonna trick your mind into thinking that you have a lot of chicken when it's really just a serving size. So then you can take your chicken, you can put it all around here, add some butter, add some syrup, have chicken and waffles. This would be great for lunch, dinner, breakfast, any of those things. And if you go ahead and cook these beforehand, you just have to take them out of the freezer, a few minutes before and pop them into the air fryer, pop them into your oven for about 5 minutes at 350, 400. If you get the fully cooked breaded chicken, then you only have to cook it based on what the package is. So normally I would put it in the air fryer for about 17 minutes. So I can put that in the air fryer, go back to doing what I need to do, and then the last few minutes throw my waffles in there, and now you have a meal that is, you know, pretty cost effective when you talk about your waffles or your pancakes, and then it's easy to make every single day. So that's this one. I would definitely look into pancake and waffle mix that is protein based. But even if you don't find that, you can still find some protein shakes. You can use protein powder if you want to. I don't necessarily love the taste of protein powder, but you can do that. So that is meal number 2. So what I have over here is, we talked about oatmeal. Now, there are people who love oatmeal hot, and then there are those who just don't like oatmeal altogether. We're gonna make overnight oats. These are still very, very popular. They went really popular a few years ago. Everyone was doing them, and for a good reason. So when you talk about oats, oats are very nutrient dense. They're so good for, like I said, your digestion. They're good for cholesterol. They're good for keeping you full, so weight management. And then depending on what you put in them, makes them even better. So overnight oats, real simple. The base of them is real simple. So what you're gonna do is, we're gonna do a half a cup. Now, here's my thing. If you wanna do more than half a cup, that's fine. Just look at your calorie counts and things like that. We're gonna add some stuff in here. So even though we're only doing a half a cup of oats, it may sound like it's not a lot, but once we start adding some stuff in there, it's gonna be a lot more than you think. So when it comes to oats, we're just gonna do the old-fashioned. They have quick oats, and then they have the rolled oats or the steel cut or the old-fashioned ones. You want these. You want everything to be able to soak throughout the night, and then you don't want the quick ones. All right, so we're gonna do half a cup of oats. And then we're gonna do the same amount plus a little bit more of a milk. This can be up to you. So this is almond milk. It's unsweetened. It's a vanilla flavored almond milk. You can use coconut milk. You can use regular milk. You can use 2% milk. If you look at brands like Fairlife, they have half the calories and a lot of protein in that milk. Use whatever is affordable to you. It doesn't matter. We're going to add a bunch of stuff in here, so it doesn't really matter the milk. But if maybe you have a sensitivity to, lactate and things like that, get whatever milk you like to use. So we're going to add the same amount, so a half a cup, and then just a little bit more. And the reason why I say that is I don't like really thick oatmeal. So if you don't, then just add a little bit more. I like mine a little bit more runny. If you want really thick oatmeal, you can do that. You can use less. It's really, really up to you. All right, so let's talk about an ingredient that is very popular in overnight oats and why you should or should not use them. So what I have here, this is a mixture of chia, flax seeds, and hemp seeds. So chia seeds especially, people are putting chia seeds in their overnight oats all the time. And it's a hate or love thing. So chia seeds, they will expand. They'll be like chewy. And a lot of people don't like the consistency of chia seeds in anything. And so that kind of turns them off of that. I would say try it. See if you like it. Try to like it, because the chia seeds, the flax seeds, the hemp seeds, these are very, very nutrient dense. They have complex proteins. They have vitamins and minerals. They're going to help keep you full, especially the chia seeds. Those expand. They fill up your stomach. You feel full. And they're a great nutritional value, omega-3s, vitamins, minerals, everything to your overnight oats. Here's the drawback though. This bag was about $10. And it's a big bag. It's pretty full. It's to here. But this was $10. So it can get a little pricey if you decide to do that. We're not using a whole lot. I mean, the serving size is 4 tablespoons. We're not using that at all. And even if you do less than that, it's going to last longer to use a bunch of this. So I would say try it if you can afford the $10, and see if you like it. So I'm gonna do about a half of a tablespoon. Once again, if you like it, you can add more. I don't care. There's really no recipe to this except for the same amount of oats and milk. So we're gonna add a sweetener. Now you can do one of two things. You can add honey. If your honey looks like this, just put it in some warm water. It'll go back to normal. So you can add honey. You can add whatever sweetener that you like. You can add no sweetener. It's up to you. I'm going to use just a little bit of maple syrup. That's also a great sweetener. And it's like just a tiny bit. So up to you on what you use for sweetener. If there's a certain sweetener that you just really love, you can use brown sugar in this if you want to. Go ahead and do that. Now the other thing is some yogurt. So this is a light Greek yogurt that is vanilla flavored. Greek yogurt is going to have more protein. And then the light, it's about, I think, 100 calories for 2/3 of a cup with 17 grams of protein. Yeah, about 17 grams of protein. So you're getting a lot of protein for not a whole lot of yogurt. And you don't have to use the whole 2/3 cup. In fact, I would use probably a heaping tablespoon and mix that in. You can use whatever yogurt that you can stomach. I like this addition because I think it's got the probiotics that are going to be great for your gut health, and then also it's got protein added into it as well. So whatever protein that you, or whatever yogurt that you can find. If for some reason you're like, I don't really like any of the yogurts, maybe look at this. So they have yogurts that are these like remix, or they have these like toppings over here to the side. These are still pretty good. This is only 120 grams, 2 grams of fat, I think 14-ish, 10 grams of protein. That's not a lot of protein, but it's better than nothing. So if you can only stomach by maybe adding this in here, and then when you eat it in the morning, put the toppings on there, go ahead. Like that works for me as well. So we've got this. The only other things that I'm going to add, so I'm going to make this one I did right here. This is a brown cinnamon cheesecake, churro cheesecake one. So I found at the store there's a churro flavored pudding mix, and so I put about a teaspoon in there, and then I put a teaspoon of the sugar-free cheesecake pudding mix. Now you don't want to put a lot of that in there because it's going to get thick. It's going to make obviously pudding, and you want to stir it up pretty quickly once you put it in there. But these are two great additions that aren't going to add a lot to your calorie count. They're only, I think, $1, maybe $1.50 on the big one. So they're still a price, affordable, and you're only going to put like a teaspoon in there, so it's not a whole lot. You can also add things like peanut butter. Peanut butter is great when it comes to protein. It's going to help keep you full, and a lot of us probably have some peanut butter on hand. So you can add a tablespoon of peanut butter in here. You could also add in some protein powder. I don't love that option because it gets weird most of the time when you mix it in there, either by taste or by consistency, but if you have it, go ahead and use it. So on this one, I think what I'm going to do, I'm just going to add this to it and we'll call it good. So on that one, I just added, like I said, the churro, the cheesecake, and then I put some cinnamon on top. Now, the thing with overnight oats, it's called overnight oats because, hey, overnight. A lot of people may not like the consistency of overnight oats. I would put them in the fridge for at least 2 hours. So even if you make it in the morning and you're going to eat it at lunch, that works out too. You don't have to put it in there overnight. You could also make these and then put them in a container, in a saucepan or in a bowl, and then heat them up, and then just have, regular oatmeal that's warm instead of doing a cold oatmeal. A lot of people don't like cold oatmeal. I get it, but also very cost effective. Like I said, you can add a lot of different things into overnight oats, and so it can be as cost effective or a little bit pricier, just depending on what you want to add. So you can use regular milk. You don't have to use almond milk. Oatmeal and oats, very, very cost effective, very affordable. You could do this really simply with just that milk, put some cinnamon and some vanilla extract in there, and call it good. If you have leftover fruit in the fridge or in the freezer, put that on there, call it good. It does not have to be so complex that we're buying $10 of chia seeds and we're buying $2 boxes of pudding. It can be whatever is cost effective to you. I think most yogurts, You know, you can get some for 97 cents, you can get some for $2, you can get some for $1. If you see that those are on sale, go ahead and add those in here. It doesn't have to be a tub, although this tub of yogurt was only about 3 or 4, I think it was $3, and we're not using that much, so that's going to go a long way. So bases, like we talked about, these are going to be the things that we add the most of to our meals. Very cost effective. When we talk about potatoes, we talk about pancakes and waffles, we talk about eggs, talk about yogurt, oatmeal. Those are very cost effective things that we can really stretch out. They're going to be nutrient dense. They're going to make bigger meals. And then you can start adding all of those other different things to it that don't cost, you know, are higher cost, but we're not going to add too much of it, and then start to build out those meals. So breakfast, very, very important. We have some options over here. Remember, you're a free person, okay? So you could eat breakfast for dinner, for lunch, for whenever. So even though these are breakfast, you know, recipes, you can eat them at any time of the day. And a lot of these you can freeze or you can prepare ahead of time. And so it's going to cut down on the amount of time that it takes you to make these meals, which makes you more likely to probably eat them. So for the home cook, of course, we're trying to lower those grocery bills, doing it away with breakfast, with some staples and some things that you can make right at home. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.